Mystic's chinning in the chambers of Xeric is the fastest range experience in the game. It can get you as high as 1 mil XP an hour at 55 range with red chinchompas and over 2.5 mil XP an hour in max gear. Although the barrier to entry is high, requiring upwards of 8 to 10 accounts for efficient setups, there are little to no requirements for the account actually chinning. You can set these up with as little as 4 to 5 accounts, however it will take much longer. The only two requirements for the account that's actually chinning are Zaya access and the ability to wield chinchompas. This method is Iron Man friendly and a great way to maximize the experience from every chin caught and thrown. Note that group hardcore Iron Men cannot participate in this as they are not allowed to join any raids outside of their own group. Here is my interpretation of how to efficiently stack Mystics. Before we can get started with the setup, we need to find the right scout. You want a layout that has Mystics as the first combat room with this specific room layout. Ideally, the entrance is at the west and the exit is at the east. These scouts will typically start with FSCC or SCPF. Other layouts can work, however, when learning, this is the easiest and most consistent layout. A good rule of thumb when scouting is if you can't see the layout via the map or within render distance, just keep scouting. Scouting does not take very long at all, and it's better to get the proper scout rather than starting a raid with 10 accounts, realizing you have to reset anyways. Here I'll be showing you the gear setups required for each account. On your main account, you're going to want max melees with an emphasis on slash accuracy, a max range accuracy setup, Elder Maul, Arclight, BGS, Ralos, runes for monster examined, and a light bearer. For your tank ult, you're going to want max mage defense, max melee defense, combo eats, phoenix necklaces, spec transfer runes, a light bearer, and then a staff that has the Staff of the Dead special attack. Just make sure that it's not a charged toxic staff because you don't want to be venoming anything inside of the room. Also note that you don't need an Ellie for this, however, this is one of the few places that an Ellie actually is useful, so if you can afford it, it's nice to have. The Spec Transfer ult doesn't have any formal gear requirements outside of a light bearer and Spec Transfer runes, but it is nice to have its inventory filled with Bruise, Anglerfish, and Phoenix necklaces in case the tank ults get shredded and you need to resupply them. Just like the Spec Transfer ult, the Heal Other ult doesn't have any formal requirements outside of a light bearer and Spec Transfer runes. It will need blood runes for Heal Other and an inventory full of Phoenix necklaces. A Soul Flame ult is not 100% required, however, it does make the setup much quicker. In the clips revealed later, it will make sense as to why I'm geared in max defense gear, but at the bare minimum, this ult only really needs a Soul Flame horn, a hammer, and Spec Transfer runes. Here are the recommended gear setups depending on your range level and your budget. You want to maximize range strength for damage. Accuracy here means nothing as you will be keeping the Mystic at 0 defense the entire session. Note that you do not want to bring a salve amulet. When using chins, the salve only works on the target and does not work on the splash or the AoE damage from the chins, meaning only your target will die quicker. If you want to rush a main account to 99 range, the Missouri setup is fine as you don't have to spend time at pest control getting Void. However, Void is best in slot here as it gives you the most damage and it is the recommended setup. It's not that long to get from pest control nowadays, and it is recommended especially if you're an Iron Man because then you maximize the amount of experience you gain per chin thrown. If you are a lower level Iron Man and you don't have access to either prayer potions or ranging potions, I would recommend looking into Moonlight Moths as well as Lizard Kickers so that you can still maximize your chins. If you don't have the teleport to chambers via the Xeric's Talisman, or you just don't have the tablet, you can easily get there now with the removal of Karen Favor a couple years back. All you have to do is teleport to Wintertot via the Games Necklace, which is option 5, then run east of the bank to the minecart, choose option 8 with some coins in your inventory, and then go to Mount Kitamortum. After you've secured a scout, pass the barrier with all your accounts and then have all the alt accounts follow the main account. Run past the scavs. Depending on the layout, the scavs can be safe spotted naturally like shown in the clip here. Otherwise, you can just find a spot to AFK while the tank account set up the Mystic room. With your first tank account, you're going to want to staff spec while spec transferring with another alt so that you're topped off on special attack. Sip a brew and a Menophyte remedy as you're running inside of the room. This tank's job is to get the melee aggro of the first 3 mystics inside of the room. Once the first 3 are melee aggroed, you're going to want to start to run towards the entrance to the designated tile. As you can see in this clip here, one of the mystics starts attacking me again with mage, so I have to run back, get the melee aggro, and then run back to the safe spot at the entrance. With the second tank, you're going to staff spec and then get spec transferred by another alt just like the first tank did. You're going to run towards the center of the room. As long as those first 3 mystics are melee aggroed on the first tank, they won't bother you. If you notice, there's a mystic that's stuck on the northern hall inside of a stalagmite. I run back towards the entrance to wiggle it out free, and then I can start heading my way over towards the north hall towards the middle of the room. Here, I'm grabbing all of the mystics to get into melee aggro range, and then once they've stopped hitting me with mage attacks, then I can stand in the safe spot. You can run inside of the room with all of the alt accounts following the main account. If you need to resupply any of the tanks, you can do it here. Once the tanks have been resupplied, you can start heading your way into the middle of the room with the first tank. Staff spec and then spec transfer with another alt. You can put Justy on here because those first 3 aggroed mystics are attacking you with melee. If they ever start to hit you with mage, just run back towards them, get the melee aggro again, and then make your way towards the north hall. Once you wiggle the 3 mystics into the north hall, make your way towards the center of the room and tag 2 or 3 mystics that are aggroed on the other tank. You want to do this in order to spread the damage during the stacking portion later. If you notice, I don't attack the green mystic that's directly north of the other tank, because what happens is you will lose the safe spot of that tank if you do so. Two alts will now break away from following the main account and then start running towards the northwest corner near your closest tank. I turn on Entity Hider here and check the Hide NPCs button, as it will make the movement portion for the dancing much easier later. Resupply your tank alts as needed, and then make your way towards the first tank and do this specific movement pattern. Moving in this crisscross pattern and dancing will change the blocking properties of the mystics, which allow them to stack. I won't go into blocking properties in this video, but it's very similar to how people run around during chinning, barraging, maniacal monkeys, dust devils, smoke devils, blood bells, etc. So this is kind of where the magic happens. What you want to do is you want to DD on this tile with both tanks and make sure that you have staff spec on. As the mystics start to stack on that single tile, you're going to want to continue combo eating so that you don't die. If you die with one of the accounts, then the mystics will aggro any random account within the room, and it just messes up the lure completely. The dancing alts now become the blocker alts. One will be directly north and one will be directly east. This will stop the stack of mystics from moving when the chinner starts to throw his chins. Make your way towards the northwest corner of the room with the rest of the accounts, and this is where you're going to zero defense one mystic by dragging it out. Here I'm brewing down all my stats to 0 so that I do minimal damage on the single mystic that I drag out while I chicken it. The Horn alt will use the special attack twice so that 2 of my mauls will land, and then the Horn alt will hammer 1 time for a total of 3 mauls/hammers. After you've hit 3 mauls, you want to change into your max accuracy range gear and then hit 3 Rallos splats on that same mystic. 3 mauls and 3 Rallos splats will be 0 defense. At this point, since the dragged out mystic is 0 defense, you can start chinning on the chinner account. However, if this is your first time or you don't have a lot of experience with this, I would recommend that you try to chicken the mystic the same way that you would do with a corp. The goal is to hit 20 Arclight specs to get all of its melee combat stats to 0, and then 360 BGS damage to get its magic level down to 0. This is where the heal other ult comes into play. It can keep any account that's getting attacked by the Mystic at full HP without ever having to eat on the main account or the tank accounts. The Phoenix necklaces will continue to break as your HP goes lower from heal others. The chinning account will make its way towards the chinning tile, which is right next to the blocker accounts. It is 2 tiles northeast of the original tank ults. The Soul Flame Horn ult takes aggro here, but it's not necessarily required if you fully chicken the Mystic. The blocker ults keep the stack of Mystics underneath the Chinner in place so that they don't move and kill the Chinner. Continue chickening the dragged out Mystic with your main and spec transfer army. The way that I'm doing it in this video allows the Chinner account to start chinning immediately so that there's no downtime. If this is your first time or you're inexperienced with Mystic stacking, I would recommend that you just take the extra time and not start chinning until everything is fully lowered on the dragged out Mystic. It is extremely important that whoever is chinning never moves from that tile. If the Chinner ever has to drink a prayer or a range spot, it is safest for the Chinner to right-click the single Mystic that's dragged out to attack it again. If the Chinner ever gets dragged out, and then the stack of Mystics underneath them has line of sight, they will die immediately. This will completely ruin the stack, as the Mystics targeting the Chinner will now choose different people in the room randomly to attack. In very rare scenarios it can be saved, but for the most part, you might as well start rescouting for another layout. Here's an example of what it looks like when the Chinner account gets dragged out. This method nets 700,000 range experience with red chinchompas and over 750,000 with black chinchompas, because reds hit 11 of the Mystics and black hit all 12. The two main reasons that people use this method is because they're an Iron Man that hates catching chinchompas, as this maximizes every chinchompa that's thrown, or you're just a main account who's trying to rush high levels very quickly and you have unlimited GP. If you are starting at 55 range with red chinchompas, you will be 71 range by the end of the first session, and that only takes about 1 hour. Sessions are as fast as 25 to 30 minutes once your stats and your gear improve. Note that an increase in stats and gear do not provide higher experience in a session. However, your sessions will become shorter and you will utilize less chinchompas and less supplies overall. As noted before, prioritize range strength over anything, as accuracy means nothing when the target is kept at 0 defense over 90% of the session. If you have any questions related to Mystics chinning or Megascale related activities, you can leave a comment down below. There are a couple more advanced strats that I personally do that I didn't list in the video here, but I didn't think that they really needed to be included in a beginner-friendly guide, so I left them out. I'll leave a link down to the Scaled Raids Discord below, as they are a good resource for a lot of Megascale related activities, and they have guides of how to set up each room specifically. Thanks for watching.